Hi guys, welcome back to the Improvement Season podcast. It's been moments for me and Pascal. We managed to have a toilet break and that was about it. But for you guys, it's been an entire week, and now we're going to talk about the thing that we said we'd talk about last week, but actually we saved it for this week. Pascal, can you tell I changed my hat?
No.
It's a black hat. That's
I'm
about
always
it.
so busy in monitoring and watching myself on Zoom calls and all that kind of stuff that I'm never really noticing.
Do you recognize the symbol at all? I have it also tattooed on me. That might give you a clue.
I mean, I've seen it in the past, but I can't really. So I would need. It's from Dragon Ball. No, isn't.
Naruto. Pervy Sage. So his emblem.
Is it his?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I trained with
sorry
my client.
that I disappointed you.
I trained with my client Ali last week, and he gifted me this hat.
Oh,
which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
So
that is indeed pretty cool.
he sees me as his Pervy Sage. He is the
That's
Naruto.
a compliment, isn't it?
To be honest, I do like Jiraiya, so
Yeah,
he's a bit of a legend.
Yeah, he is.
So we can talk about, before I introduce what I want to talk about, what was the thing you guessed it might be? Because I think
Correct, doucette and Menno Henselmans.
Oh, no, it was not.
No, it wasn't. Okay.
No. So maybe that's something we can follow up with, because I doubt this will be an entire episode to just talk about the fact that the legend of aesthetics, the half natty king,
Matt Ogus.
Matt Ogus.
Yes, I've seen
Ogus
it.
Cake,
Yes.
the Love Diet legend, went pro with the WNBF at the Muscle
Yeah.
Mayhem this weekend. And I just want to give that man some love and a shout out. I actually am planning to do a piece of content on him for Instagram to give him some love and a shout out, because I think his post was great. And I think him as an individual has just, man, for me, he was a big inspiration for getting into natural bodybuilding. So I just feel like I needed to show him some love and respect. And also just his journey has been great, even though he hasn't captured the last however many years of it. For those initial years to now, he's evolved a lot. So
I just wanted to say that I find him to be a great role model, because he just demonstrates that it wasn't just about making content. It wasn't just about like, okay, I'm here to make money. That's why I'm the bodybuilder. And as soon as the money isn't really there anymore, I'm going to do something else, offering some kind of courses or whatever, you know. For him, he stuck with it. I do remember the last time that he competed, and it was quite underwhelming for him. Wasn't it also in 2017, Steve, when you've competed?
it might have been around, it was a very similar time, yeah.
Yeah. And that he still stuck around, even though that he has, of course, created sent lots of children into the world, and still been able to continue train. Because as we all know, what we both know, because we are only the two of us right now, Steve, most of the people who are really then getting kids, starting a family or building a family, training becomes more of lesser importance, and sometimes even completely falls out of the things that they want to do any longer. And seeing him continue to go into the training sessions, taking things seriously, trying to build an impressive physique, and now, after years of building things, stepping on the stage, and also basically disproving that he is also an unnatty person. Because I do remember the time back then, the entire crew around him were all kind of fake natties, you know? And I think it just goes to show of what it is that we've just recently talked about, that the perception has changed completely because of social media, because of what people are now able to see most of the time, that I don't really think that most people would still call him fake natty. And he has an impressive physique.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? It's actually a really weird thing to think about. I think there's a lot more people that would have thought he was a fake natty that now don't think he is. But still, like, I got a comment the other day of someone basically saying that I'm not natural. And I'm like, it's so, I don't know, it's just so strange. It's all over the place, because you have now kids who are getting jacked as like I am within the first years of their lifting career because they're on steroids or what have you. So then people think anyone that big is on the juice. But then also you have way more naturals who are getting decades deep with impressive physiques. So then you realize, this is actually more attainable. And it's like, I don't know, depends what echo chamber you're in and what voices you're allowing yourself to hear. So I think within our space, generally, people who maybe thought Matt wasn't natty now probably are like, actually, yeah, that totally makes sense that he is natural. But outside of that space, maybe not still.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. You got a point there. And also, if someone is training for years on end, right, and there's not really a drastic physical change, then you have to assume that this person isn't on gear. You just have to assume this, especially when that person is still committed to training, that he's still training appropriately, right, taking care of nutrition. And it's not that there's kind of a period of complete silence where you don't really see his physique, but he's putting himself out there constantly. And there's no real drastic differences, right? It's just a gradual process over years of building. You just have to give, if you've ever been in doubt about that person, you have to give that person even more so the benefit of a doubt now than previously.
Yeah. And something I also wanted to credit Matt for was he spoke about like getting the pro card, and it wasn't really about necessarily getting the pro card. It was about the things we always talk about, the journey, the process, falling in love with the intrinsic values that it gives you. And what you spoke about there, where once he wasn't doing it anymore for like business reasons, and he had a family, and so he easily could have let it wane. He didn't, because he has all those intrinsic rewards he gets from the process of bodybuilding. So it is, like you said, I think he is a great role model for natural bodybuilders to like aspire to be a bit like, to be honest with you. So he has had a pro-worthy physique for years, and it was just a case of when, not if. And he wanted to do it, I think, in his eyes, the right way, by getting it at the Muscle Mayhem, one of the most competitive WNBF qualifiers or shows within the US, because he knew he'd have to earn it against some high caliber athletes, for which he, I think, twice before has attempted and not managed to get it. And so, yeah, to see that kind of story finish, that chapter, or maybe a new chapter start for him now as a pro, like I hope he goes to WNBF Worlds, because to be if I can manage to qualify, obviously, chances are I'm not going to be in a pro class, but if I was, I'd actually be up on stage with him. That would be kind of crazy for me. It would be in terms of my journey.
Yeah, it would be an amazing story for you, Steve, in particularly, because he was your greatest inspiration at first. And if you're then capable after years, and not just like, okay, I don't know, he's my idol, and then after 5 years, I'm finally able to see him in person. No. Competing against that person, right? It's just something, I don't know, a story out of a dream was something like, I don't know, Cristiano Ronaldo or Messi, for example, playing with Ronaldinho and all that kind of stuff, those kind of stories, right? And then overtaking them, something like this. And it would be quite amazing if you guys were to compete against another.
It's crazy, actually, because we've never met in real life. We've only ever spoken over Instagram a little bit. And many of the listeners will probably know I've invited him several times onto the podcast, and I only a month ago or so reached out to him again. I was like, it's been probably years since I've asked him to come on. I was like, just so you know, Matt, anytime you want to come on, I'm here for you. And he responded to me, and he was just like, sometimes I don't know if he always acknowledges that I ask him to come on, because he's like, he's just not ready. He's not ready for it yet. But he was like, when I am ready, I'm coming on, and you'll be the first podcast I do. I need to hold him to that.
I find I respect him for everything that he has. So he has earned more respect from me personally, because everything that he has been doing is more something that I can resonate with. As you, Steve, know, and also other people know probably as well by that point, I'm not the type of person who really applauds people who try to drag on the attention to themselves due to then being controversial, or due to doing things that are just a little bit over the edge, where it's just like, mate, a 16-year-old is doing something like this, but not a 35-year-old dude, you know? And the way that he has done things over the past years, right? Kept things for himself to some extent. He has never really shouted off the rooftops that he's now going to compete. He hasn't really put himself out there that massively, right? It just resonates so much with me because it just shows me that he's doing it all for himself mostly. And of course, then sharing certain achievements and accomplishments with other people around him and also on social media, but never really been the person we have or get the impression that he's doing it solely to draw in more attention and solely doing it for others instead of for himself. And this is something that I very much respect, and especially also, it would be so easy to then say to you, Steve, of course I'm coming on to the podcast and then talking some gibberish or so, saying like, okay, I'm not ready for this, but when I feel that I am, I will come on, right? So in general, a very mature approach to competing, to the way that he expresses himself and puts himself out there, and also just a mature way of going about things, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to see some more stage shots as well from that show, because it's one of the more competitive ones.
So humble.
You're very humble. Yeah.
Like, is that me on stage? After someone who has one of the biggest YouTube channels in the past, has worked on his physique for like, what is it now, 20 years or so, right? And then making a post like this, is this even me, right? After such a long time of working for it and being genetically blessed, is, I think, pretty cool to see.
Yeah, and I liked, I kind of alluded to this, but it was a sense of not all pro cards are made equal. Again, it wasn't about the pro card. And it's easy to get into that kind of slight mentality of pro card chasing. He was like he could have gone to other federations to get a natural pro card where maybe it could be easier, or other shows to get a natural pro card, or again, easier competition. He didn't want it. He wanted to kind of earn it in the way that he felt was right for him, which again, I have a lot of respect for, because I can definitely see the temptation to kind of pro card hunt in that sense. But I wouldn't want to go and get a pro card against a level of competition where I was like, it to be honest, reminds me of WNBF Worlds. And I mean this nothing against the people I compete against. We only had 4 in our class. I came second, but that was out of 4 people. It's not like I came second out of like 10, 15. And I'm still proud of that fact. But it's not like, it doesn't mean the same to me as if it was against 15 or 20 highly competitive individuals. Then maybe I would have placed less high. But hey, I know then it was against people that I deem or enough. It's sufficient competition, I guess is the word.
I think that's totally fine, Steve, to feel that way, because your perception and your ambitions are different to other people's perception and ambitions. And of course, because you feel that way doesn't mean that you're speaking in a condescending way to those that means a lot to them, right? When they are getting a pro card while there was only one other competitor, you can be proud if that's how you feel, in my opinion, right? Only because someone else has a different viewpoint and different ambitions doesn't mean that he's offending you. And I think that many people are quite sensitive to that topic of like, that's just my opinion, of course, being butthurt because someone else has a different perception, different opinion, different viewpoint. So be it, that's the way that I see things. For me personally, something that I can acknowledge, I do see, but I don't understand, right, is something like racism. I acknowledge that this is a real problem in the world, and that many people have that viewpoint and that worldview, that this is their reality, but I don't understand how you can feel that way, right? And the same, so I'm not going out there and I'm not butthurt because they are the way that they are, right? They have perhaps their own experiences that led them to their conclusion. And I'm also not such a hypocrite who then goes the other way around and is as extreme as then racists themselves also, right? Because it doesn't really make you any kind of better. And the same then goes for you when you're saying like, okay, for me personally, I didn't really feel like that was a great accomplishment. I want to really have the feeling that I've earned it amongst people that I found very impressive myself, right? But that doesn't mean that then other people may not feel that way or aren't allowed to feel a different way.
Yeah, it makes me think of the Euros recently, where if England won against Spain, that, I mean, actually beating Spain would have been incredible because Spain were freaking shit hot, but Spain earned their way to the finals. We had some luck, and I think in life to discount luck is silly because luck, it plays a role in everything. So yeah, it's just a case of, for me as an athlete, wanting to feel like I've truly earned it. And in some ways, I will say, for the amount of time and effort and competitions I've done, I think in many ways, however I end up, I'd like to say, however I end up getting a pro card, I feel like that's a bit ambitious of me to say, or presumptuous, but however I end up doing it, I feel like I have earned it in some way. But inevitably, it's kind of similar to Eric Helms. When he got his pro card, he had those, like, that devil on his shoulder being like, hey, Eric, they only gave that to you because you're Eric Helms. But after enough time passed, he was like, no, I am a pro. He went to Worlds. He placed within a pro lineup. He didn't come last. So it kind of gives you that nod of confidence. And yeah, you can take it too far where you undersell yourself and you don't have sufficient ego or like positive ego or confidence, I guess. But yeah, I just wanted to talk a bit about that. And also, actually, on a side note, I guess this kind of leads to it. One of my clients reached out to me and he was like, why is it in the UK and Europe, the lineups are so much more competitive than in the US? He was just like, I look at some of these like natural bodybuilding shows in the US, and he was like, I feel like I could turn pro if I come in shape. But in the UK and Europe, I would struggle. And I don't know if you have, when I say that, do you have any kind of initial thoughts on why, or I can explain why I at least think it might be the case?
Yeah, it's probably high fructose corn syrup.
It's I'm trying to think of another American thing that it could be. I don't know.
No, I don't know. I really don't know.
The secret's in our water.
Maybe it is the environment that you're in, Steve, because you've talked about the environment like a couple of episodes ago, and maybe that plays really into it. Because I think that in the US, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's much more widespread, and there aren't really as many competitors on in one show because it is so widespread. So you have to pick and choose the shows a little bit more carefully. And then in the UK, of course, if you are from the middle part of the UK, you can easily travel down to Rugby, for example, to do the show. It's not that big of a deal. Same goes also, if you really want to be on a competitive stage, you could easily, and people are doing that, of course, if you're planning a competitive season, travel from Germany to one of the UK shows, for example, or the vice versa, or travel to one of the Spain WMBF shows or so. And that's why it's much more easily accessible that then people are taking that trip upon them. Because I think that many people, especially in Europe, underestimate how far away certain areas in the US are. So you can't just easily travel from the East Coast to the West Coast just to do a show there. That is a long ass flight. That's a flight, yeah. Right? Especially not commuting with a train or via car. That is just something that you're not doing. Here, for example, whenever I'm in Germany, so in Berlin, and I want to compete at the WMBF, of course, then I'm traveling down to Munich, for example, or I don't know, GmbF, for example, and that takes me like 4 to 7 hours by train or with car. That's not too shabby and not too big of a deal. And I think that of course plays into it a little bit more, that the places where you can compete aren't that far away. It's not too heavy of a burden on your on your purse, for example, and also you can be a little bit more picky when it comes to picking the really competitive shows. And I think that many people know what competitive shows there are.
Do you not see the progress you would like? Are you sick of writing your own programs? Or perhaps you need some accountability in order to stick with a plan? Then it's time to start working with us. We at Revive Stronger offer a truly personalized coaching service. You'll get more than just an email with some macros or random cookie cutter program. With Revive Stronger, you will be the center of our attention. You will receive your own fully individualized training protocol alongside a customized nutritional strategy. We created the coaching around your needs, wants, personal preferences, and your own unique lifestyle. Every single week, we delve into your program in order to make appropriate adjustments so that we get the most out of your time and the best possible outcome. We help both female and male athletes to seriously change their body composition by adding more muscle mass and decreasing fat tissue. No matter if you're a competitive bodybuilder or just want to look better, if you need help with your progress and taking your physique to the next level, our coaching is for you. It's time to make a change. Sign up today and let's revive stronger.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't really think about the closeness of the shows. And so as a high-level competitor, you can more so easily travel to those. I don't know if it's as distinguishable from the US. The thing I was thinking about was we don't have many. Like the UK have a one show. So like if you're a UK competitor, you want to compete with the WNBF, you do one show. Whereas in the US, there's several maybe in every state. It just seems like it's way more spread. So there's much more quantity of shows, which reduces the quality, therefore, I think. But I don't think that necessarily the caliber of athlete is better in Europe necessarily in the UK, because, I don't know, I just think about some you think about the WNBF pro overall winner. It's Brian DaCosta. He's a US man, like very good bodybuilder. And you think about Doug Miller. I don't know, there's a lot of US competitors, Matt Ogus, for example, you could name as like very high caliber. So yeah, it's just an interesting one. I don't know if I haven't thought about it long and hard enough to have like a really precise answer, but it is interesting because I do look sometimes at the lineups of some of these US shows and I'm like, man, you won that class, you wouldn't place in the UK show. Like it's a total different level of playing field, and there are levels to this, absolutely levels to it, and so it's just interesting to be part of. But like to be in I just think of the Pro Worlds lineup, the overall, I'm just like, I just will never be able to be there. And you just have to understand that there are levels to it, like any sport. Like if you're leagues below the Premiership, it's unlikely you're ever going to be of a standard where you can get into the Premiership.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that it's like you said, it's probably just too widespread, and maybe also enhanced bodybuilding plays a role in that as well, where it's just, I mean, in the UK, there's also the barrier of entry is fairly low when it comes to going enhanced, of course, that is. But I don't know if there's such a prestige behind it in the UK as there is, for example, in the US.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
Do we want to talk
that's
about
just speculation, of course?
Do we want to talk about the thing that you thought I was going to bring up?
Yeah. Go ahead.
So I have seen. So essentially, as far as I'm concerned, Menno did a video on steroids and the impact on longevity, and then Greg Doucette did a video response to that. And from my understanding, completely strawmanned Menno into making Menno sound like he said something he truly didn't. When I hadn't watched Menno's video and I watched Greg's, which is a stupid backwards way to do it, especially if you're watching Greg Doucette, like watch the video he's critiquing. And when he said the things Menno essentially was presumed to have said, I was like, no way Menno said that. Surely not. Menno knows better than to kind of say those things, which is essentially along the lines of, like, it almost sounded like, oh, don't worry, steroids aren't that bad because all your healthy behaviors outdo the negatives of taking the steroids themselves. You'll live longer than your average person. It's like, yeah, man, he did not say that when you then watch Menno's video. So then Menno did a video response and basically corrected everything that Greg said in terms of the straw man and actually still manned his position and confirmed that he is not pro steroid use, and did inform the negatives and said how, hey, if you didn't take steroids at all, you'd live even longer with those health benefits. So natural bodybuilding for the win. And then essentially outed Greg, because Greg seems to have tried to make himself a martyr. Martyr, is that the word? No, I'm going to say pro for natural bodybuilding, and how he's like, oh yeah, like I'm so positive about natural bodybuilding. I always encourage people not to do like steroids and things.
I mean, I've never really followed Greg, to be honest.
No.
I didn't even know that he is, that he made that kind of turn. But it is weird coming from a guy like him. And I'm all for kind of course, being able to change also your stance and your opinion on certain matters. But having the pendulum swing so far to the other side is always kind of, I don't know. I always see this. I'm always raising my eyebrows because I have the feeling that there's some other incentive behind it.
Yes. So, yeah, Menno basically brought up all these things. Again, neither of us follow Greg closely, so I was not aware of the shit that Greg had done. You just have to watch Menno's video where he basically outs him for, somewhere along the lines of selling steroids, and they were actually fake steroids and doing some dodgy business, essentially, where it's actually illegal, I guess, because it was all on record. And like you said, doing that in the US is illegal. It's like doing all of that. And then on top of it all, and I'd already done a video of this because, I'll be honest, I got frustrated with him taking punts at Mike that felt unnecessary and a bit too personal, and he was milking it. And I was just like, man, in every one of these videos, he's done a fucking advert for these bloody testosterone supplements, claiming that they're going to do all this for your muscle growth. Bullshit. So I was just like, I have to do a video on this just because it'll make me feel better about the situation. And I just kind of did a response video on my Instagram, basically just informing that, hey, there is zero evidence for testosterone helping your muscle growth. And yeah, the fact he sells then this, it's like, and it's like you responded to my video where he's like, yeah, don't do steroids, but do this like supplement I am selling that is essentially like snake oil, because there's no evidence for its use. It's all based off anecdote and mechanisms that make no sense in the human body. So yeah, it's kind of diabolical, and I hope people can just see Greg a little bit for what he is. I sometimes get I think he's a good actor, because sometimes I have seen bits of his content and I genuinely think he has like the best person's interests at heart, or he's doing it for like more moralistic reasons. But the more I learn about the man, the more I see, the less I understand. Am understanding of that. I think also GVS, Jeff, did a video on him because he was selling his online coaching for some ridiculous rate, and it was just like preposterous. And so I think Greg took it all down or something. I don't know the insides and outs, but yeah, it's just I guess it's that t-shirt. The more you know. Like
yeah, but stars. That's something that you commonly see, and I'm not saying that Greg is a scammer because I haven't done my due diligence of doing any kind of digging into what he has done, but most of the time that's how scammers and also deceptible people are. Very charming, very likable, and they can pull or suck you into their kind of scheme most of the time, and people are so caught in that. And most people are always like, I would never get caught into something like this. You see it all the time with the different kind of schemes out there, right? People are always like, how can you not see this? How did that victim not see this? But most of the time, you're being pulled in that web, and it's so hard to get out of that web. And especially those individuals are often quite charming, quite convincing when it comes to certain things, and yeah, this is also, you can see it in many different aspects of relationships, right?
I see this way too often in the fitness industry, and it's kind of scary. It's that whole straw manning, because I will say Greg was quite convincing. If I didn't know Menno and his position on things generally, and gave Menno grace in that situation, or not even grace, but the right, and watching his video first, a lot of people would have just watched the video and just gone. And I see this, we mentioned it last time with Mike. I see a few people taking shots at him because he's got to the size he is, and now everyone's jumping on board, and they're not giving Mike any grace. So for, like you said before, anything he says, anything he does, they automatically assume the worst, and they think the worst of him, because now it's like, hey, we get to take down the big dog, because by taking him down, I think in my head pulls me up. I just hate that mentality completely. It's that just herd mentality. And you see it with various people and topics in the fitness industry. Like someone takes a punt, and then someone else is like, oh, maybe I'll take a punt. And then everyone jumps on board. So I'm glad Menno stood his ground, and
he did it quite well, to be honest.
Yeah.
Very authoritative in a positive kind of manner. Very confident of the things that he said, and also you could just hear and see that it was well researched because he was so confidently speaking about this, which of course sounds a little bit hypocritical because it's exactly what you've kind of just said now and criticized, but it was more like a little bit of a rebuttal to some extent, and yeah, it was very well done and quite impressive, to be honest, to be able to just like block all of the arguments in such a concise and easy manner.
I think when you know what you stand for and the things that you've said, and you're not talking just rubbish, which Menno never does, and he is a great person who's well researched, he can always feel confident in doing this sort of thing and can back himself. I think you get into issues which maybe someone like Greg does when you do talk a lot of all over the place, and so it's easy then to find almost dirt on an individual like that, in a sense. It's similar to, I don't know, like Goob takes down big social media influencers. I was just
thinking of the same. Exactly.
And if you have nothing to hide, then Goob is no threat to you. Like, I'm not worried if I put up a photo that Goob's going to take me down, because he can't. It's not modified in any way. Like, if you're confident in who you are and what you stand for, like, you can take abuse and be like, it's water off a duck's back, because I know who I am, I know what I stand for, and it's not what that person's trying to make out. You just hope people can see through the bullshit that gets put out there, and it's more and more becoming fucking glorified entertainment in social media, and the evidence-based space is some of that. We're getting drawn into it, and I think we have to play it a little bit, but at the same time, I don't like it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most problematic things. I don't like that kind of content. I don't really like that kind of discussion, because I think everyone has their own. It's like I said in the last episode, everyone has their own. Or was it this episode? Don't really know any longer. No, it was this. Everyone has their own perception, has their own experiences, and because of this, they have created their own worldview and biases, right? And because of this, you can only function together if there is a willingness to make some compromises and to meet the other person in the middle. This is how politics works. Yeah. Right, and you see a tendency nowadays. Unfortunately, it's a tendency that I don't really like, of extreme takes, and the more controversial, the more extreme the arguments, the better the rating of the politicians or even the party. And I don't really like this, because this is, I think, not how politics should be. So, for example, in Germany, one of the most complex, not complex, but the thing is with AfD, have you heard about it? It's kind of like a more nationalistic right-wing party who has gotten very impressive numbers over the last couple of years. And they are having an impressive TikTok game. And they are getting a lot of voters and catching a lot of voters due to their social media game, because it's a populist party, and populism is often categorized by very extreme statements, very blank statements that don't really allow for a lot of nuance and all that kind of stuff. And I don't really like that trend. No. And the same applies then to something like discussions when it comes to fitness. It doesn't really take us any kind of further ahead, right? It's just those minute, idiotic discussions that I don't really like on the web, because once again, it doesn't really take us forward. It's just it slows us actually down.
This is what Menno essentially said in his video, didn't he? He's like, I don't like ad hominems. I don't like to make things personal. But he felt warranted in this situation because of what he'd been drawn into. Thing is, it's like, I found that entertaining, and it's drama and it's interesting. So it's like, at the same time, my humanistic like elements are coming through where I'm like, oh, that's entertaining, but it's not meant to be. This is meant to be like sports science and like education. So I think you have to do it the way, basically looking at not the individual, but the information that they're sharing. And it's the same with Andrew Huberman, I think, in some ways, where some people are correctly looking at the information he's putting out and trying to kind of suss that out. Other people are just being like, let's take Andrew Huberman down. He's a big name. If I start putting his name in my videos, I'm going to climb the ranks up in social media. It's a tricky game that to kind of do that, I think. And I do think people see through it.
Yeah,
and it
I
might
hope so.
Help for a short time. But I mean, I didn't know Greg Doucette has like 2 million subscribers over on YouTube. So clearly there's a reason he's doing it, because people just latch onto it and really enjoy it. And people like the drama, unfortunately.
Yeah.
He just does reaction content.
Yeah.
From what I gather.
Mate, it's not any kind of different to something like trash TV. It's basically kind of the same. It's just you watch other people bash each other, and you, I don't know, take entertainment in that. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I do like trash TV. But
yeah,
I don't like that kind of drama.
Switch off to. If there's nothing more to be said on that, we have maybe a few minutes for an anime corner.
Yeah.
I only have really one small thing to say.
All right, go ahead.
So this might be spoilers for anyone who hasn't got up to date with My Hero Academia. Mm-hmm. This season, I've just really enjoyed personally. Every episode, I think, has been pretty banger. But the latest 2, I just kind of watched kind of back to back, and I was just like,
they were great.
The character arc of some of these characters who, at the start of My Hero Academia, just like, these are dull ass characters, but the character arc they've had throughout, I'm just like, yes, this is like it. There was moments, I love it, Pascal, you're probably the same, when you get like your hair stands on end. There's just moments where you're like, ooh, they're like tingles, like it's a special feeling. And this is why I love anime, because it gives it to me. And the last episode of My Hero Academia just now, that gave me that. I was like, oh fuck, like this is unreal.
No, I totally agree.
My heart just sank at the end.
Yeah, and the thing is, you actually want to know more now. These are the episodes where most of the time I actually leave when I haven't read the manga, and then I Google, like, has that really happened? What is happening next? Because I need to know. There's something in Jujutsu Kaisen, for example, where it was the same thing. Something in the what is it called? The Culling Game arc, which is about to come very soon, probably, happened there, and I was just like, this can't be real now. Something needs to happen in the future where then kind of it reverses things again. I don't know, right? And then I'm Googling for it and couldn't really find anything, of course, because I'm already that far ahead when it comes to the manga, but especially also when it comes to kind of, shows where it's just like, for example, someone is, I don't want to say anything because otherwise we are spoiling things.
I can say, I was speaking to Ali about this, my client, because he reads manga and also watches anime, and I don't read manga. I haven't yet. I've listened to manga from Dragon Ball Super, and so I know about some of the future stuff with granola and things, which I did enjoy. But anyway, he was like, he sometimes regrets reading the manga because then he doesn't get to experience it in the anime, and sometimes it's so good in the anime where he's a bit underwhelmed because he already knows what's going to happen. Do you ever feel that?
Yeah, that was my biggest concern as well, and I do feel him. I really do feel him, because you can look forward to the animation, but you can't really look forward to the excitement and the surprise anymore. What I loved about, for example, Attack on Titans, because I've never read it, and what I loved about it were the hooks and what was it again? What is it called again when it ends and
cliffhanger.
Then the cliffhangers. I loved it. I hated it in the moment, especially when the season ended. But I loved it because it makes you want to. You're looking forward to the next episode. You're looking so much forward to the next season. It makes you exciting. It drags you in, right? It keeps you engaged. And I do understand where he's coming from, and I feel the same to some extent. So, for example, with One Piece. I got back now to reading the manga, which for a very long time I didn't do. And ever since then, I have like 20 episodes that are waiting for me because I don't watch it anymore. And it's unfortunate because seeing it animated most of the time is just much, much cooler than reading the manga.
Final thing, are you up to date with The Boys?
No, I wanted to start, but I haven't yet gotten to it.
Are you on season 4 now? Yeah,
this would be the new season that just started is the one that I need to start.
It just finished. It's an interesting season, so enjoy. It's everything The Boys is and more.
I'm looking forward to it. I do enjoy it because it's an easy watch, to be honest.
Yeah, and Homelander he just gets better every season, to be honest with you. So
I just finished reading. And this is one of those topics, Steve. Just finished reading Demon Slayer because I couldn't wait any longer. And it's, of course, freaking amazing what's about to happen still. But at the same time, it is exactly that problem. I now know what's about to happen.
Whereas my pepper...
And it's unfortunate because I love the ignorance is kind of bliss in that situation, Steve. So really think about it twice or 3 times if you really want to start reading things, because it really takes away the excitement and for the animation.
Spoilers, like that's what they are, right? It's fucking sucks when you see it and you're like, God damn it.
Yes, basically you are spoiling to yourself.
Yeah.
So,
and on that note,
we've
probably done a great guys, thank you so much. In the comments, if you want, great way to give us some fun for the algorithm, but also congratulate Matt Ogus. You can do it in the comments. You can go to Matt and message him. This is obviously coming out way after he's already turned pro, so you'll probably have seen it by now, but I just wanted to make sure we touched on it because, like I said, he's been a big inspiration to me, and I think he is a great representation for natural bodybuilding. And give us a like, subscribe, thumbs up, all that good stuff, and I guess we'll catch you in the next one.
Cheers, guys.
Losing weight fast while maintaining reality, and we know how to do it. And we will help you achieve it. It is the Minicup movement. Reality, and we know how to do it. We will help you achieve the Minicup movement while maintaining muscle mass at the same time. We will support you from the beginning to the end, so that you see the results you would like to, and come from the beginning to the end. You'll receive the results you would like to, and come that is based on much stronger. You'll receive fully automated spreadsheet that is based on your nutritional needs. Over 30 videos will guide you through each and every single step of the Minicup, so that you're getting the most out of your journey through each and every single step of the Minicup, so that you're getting the most out of your journey whenever you want. The Minicup movement is open 24/7. You can start, so if you want to learn more, the Minicup movement to sign up, hit the link in the description below. If you want to learn more, let's revive stronger. Sign up, hit the link in the description below. So let's revive stronger together.